Do a re-intro before I start, so that I can cut this for YouTube, and it's all good for YouTube. All right. Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and today we have a very special interview. We have the one and the only Miss Rebecca Black in the house here for a special conversation about anything and everything. What's going on?
Absolutely. Same shit, different day. You know.
So, same shit. You're just dropping another hot interview somewhere. You know, it's.
No, I'm sitting at home. I'm in my bedroom at home for like the, I don't know, 150th day in a row. So, yeah. But I'm excited to be here.
Quarantine album? Quarantine anthem? Quarantine single?
I mean, it's been really like it's been something I've been writing a bit, but I mean, with everything going on, it's kind of like a few weeks at a time where I don't know, it really feels kind of not like the moment, but yeah,
that is totally respectable. It does not feel like the moment. I was just throwing it out there. All right. What I feel like started this off was that we had a funny interaction online after you had posted kind of a very personal post about just thinking back to, you know, the past 10 years and everything that you've been through and what you've sort of progressed to be today at this point. And obviously most of the people here and in the chat and watching this video know you from the song Friday. But I wanted to ask you something that maybe a lot of people don't necessarily consider about the song or about the track, but when you had made that or you had gone into the process of creating that, despite being younger and probably more naive at the time, would you say that that song was still born out of a passion for music, a love for music, a desire to partake in this art form that you have, you know, a personal love for?
yeah. I mean, that I was just talking about this the other day, like this. But that song, I mean, I didn't write the song, first of all, which a lot of people I know, a lot of people think I did, which it's understandable. It's pretty like of what a 13-year-old would probably write, unless you're Billie Eilish. But it was like the one song out of like, there are thousands of these little mini kind of production companies that exist to sell you this idea of like, we're going to make you a star. And I was somebody who, I think my parents kind of took a guess when I was a kid and said like, here, why don't you try dancing? And I happened to really fall in love with just performing in general. I did all kinds of it growing up, and eventually that developed into like specifically a love for singing and for music. And I like when Friday came about, yes, it was born from a place of music was such a huge part of my life at that point. But not in the sense of like, this is going to be my ticket. Like I mean, I was naive, but I wasn't that naive to think like, oh wow, if I work with this company, I am going to be famous or whatever. So, it was really just like a chance for me to get some experience and like put it on a resume to hopefully use like somewhere down the line, and just try it. But yeah, it's definitely been something that's been a part of my life for a very long time.
And, you know, just to sort of get like a quick sense of your opinion on this with hindsight, you know, not to talk about the company that you worked specifically, because as you were saying, you know, there are many of them that produce similar videos for different people. But, you know, would you say that their entire existence is predicated on some kind of like predatory nature?
That's a good question. They're a company trying to sell a product, which the product, I guess, on one sense is this video, but a lot of them do sell this idea of thing, which a lot of kids that I know have fallen into as well, and get really disappointed when it doesn't really work out for them. And probably are using a lot of like false marketing, false advertising kind of claims and ideas of connections they might have, or some, thing that you might end up on or that you will definitely end up on if you work with them. So yeah, I don't know if it's predatory in the sense of like being inappropriate or how many people might think about it, but
Yeah.
it definitely preys on people who know nothing about the industry and think that this could be as simple as it needs to be.
Sure. Yeah, I meant more like in that sense. I don't mean like in a, sort of like a darker sense than that.
Sure.
But, and obviously there have been tons of interviews and ink spilled about sort of the negative repercussions of that song coming out and the negative reaction to that track. But also in retrospect, would you say that there has been any kind of like silver lining to all of this? Like, are there things that came about as a result of this that for you wouldn't trade this experience because you learned X or Y or Z, or you had these experiences, or you gained this knowledge, or you gained the ability to do this, or you reached this place which you couldn't have without this song?
It's so I don't know if this will come across in the right way, but especially because I know that I've talked a lot about like the importance of not letting something necessarily define you. And I don't feel like that song defines the rest of my existence, but I wouldn't be myself, like if it wasn't for that song, and I wouldn't feel the way that I do about things or have the perspective that I do without that song. And it definitely, ironically, like only deepened my passion for music because it made me really feel like I had to absolutely figure it out and understand if it was something that I wanted to like really pursue for the rest of my life. Because again, I was just so young and I didn't realize how young I was at the time, but it could have gone one of, I guess, many different ways. And I chose one particular way and here I am. And I don't feel like I would emotionally like be the person that I am if I hadn't gone through that experience. So I guess that's a silver lining.
Okay. So to move things a little current day, because you're obviously still writing, you're still recording, you're still putting out music videos and singles and everything, what would you say today are your current goals as an artist? Sort of, obviously putting out of the view everything that COVID is kind of throwing at us and maybe sort of like throwing in front of you in terms of like an obstacle and everything. But like, what are you currently focusing on right now in terms of building your career, improving your songcraft, and just basically wherever you're headed in terms of your sound and your creative process?
I feel like I'm still just figuring out the kinds of how to make the kinds of things that I want to make and really what I want to make. Put out so many different kinds of songs since then, I feel like, and still working with many different people. And even though I guess I always try to add my thing into it, I'm still feel like I'm developing because I kind of worked backwards in the sense of most people would kind of develop without anybody ever really watching what they're doing. And just doing their own thing until something, finally really connects with people. And I've worked just backwards in that sense. So
You're sort of developing in the public eye in a way.
I guess. I mean, listen, I'm not out here like having, hundreds of millions of people watching everything I do, but I have felt like I just am continually having to prove myself. Maybe not so much anymore. More so it's now just like I want to be making the music that I really like right now. And then whatever that means down the line is whatever that means. But just trying to learn that. And right now, like considering everything, like trying to learn how to be so much more autonomous and be able to just be better at the actual like logistical parts of music, which is its own, I think, thing that every artist kind of goes through, especially pop artists probably.
I mean, just listening to the way that you're progressing from your early stuff to even just some of your latest singles, like your Self-Sabotage track, which from my view is a pretty dark and personal song. Also, that Sweetheart song, especially in terms of the video, is quite edgy. Like, you know, all the poisoning and the violence and yes, and the death and that as well. And also that Heart Full of Scars track, which wasn't too bad either.
Wow.
I mean, your voice has clearly matured quite a bit since that time, and you're writing about more adult themes. You're not afraid to be putting out music that is a bit moodier or a bit more sensual in tone. So you're really kind of transitioning out of this teen pop era that all of your early stuff was defined by. Is there, or I guess you were just saying, you know, you're still kind of in development, but how close do you feel like you are to finding your sound? Where do you feel like the sounds of today that you're hearing out there, like what is pulling you in a certain direction, or what are you attracted to in terms of like the themes or the ideas or the sounds that you want to put out there?
I feel like this year is I don't know if it seems like it's really that correlated, but with kind of the train of events that has unfolded this year between obviously everything that's going on in the world and I guess like me being at the age I'm 23. So it would be weird if I was writing like teen pop because I'm not a teenager. So how close do I feel? I mean, some days I feel like I'm so close to it and that I've hit it. And then the next day I absolutely hate everything that I've just done and feel like I'm starting all over. So it's, you know, I guess right now I'm feeling pretty okay. I think what I was so afraid of was being able to really do the things that I wanted to do and follow the references that like I really, really love. I guess if I'm looking at like what inspires me right now and like to give you I guess some sense of a direction of what I am kind of working on. I mean, it's hard because you say one thing and, you know, people's opinions and assumptions go elsewhere. But I love like people like Grimes. I love artists right now I've been listening so much to this Phoenix album that came out a few years ago called Bankrupt. Like that is super. I just love like the really kind of more like industrial sounds that are in there and feeding those more into pop. And what I have to work with a lot with producers is like convince them that I am actually willing to like go that far, or like lyrically if I'm working with another artist like or another writer, I am like, yeah, I'm down to say that. Like I have a song that never came out that talks about pussy. Like and maybe it'll come out one day, but I wrote it before I was out like publicly, so who knows. But I just and I feel like I have found those people that I really trust to be comfortable with, because that was another big kind of like hurdle for me to overcome for a while. So yeah, hopefully I only like continue to feel like I'm getting closer, but yeah.
You know, we're talking a little bit about your creative process here, but there's also kind of another side to the music world that you're dealing with, and that's the industry, which very much deals in image and preconceptions and assumptions and marketability, because of almost this like scarlet letter that could be on you in a sense, you know, not to like make it really dark, you know, but you understand sort of like where I'm going with that. You know, do you feel like at this point, if you wrote the greatest fucking song in the world, that, you know, do you think there would still be industry types who are just like, nah, you know, that's, everybody's heard of that already. You know, it's like, do you feel like there'd still be that dismissiveness there?
Probably. I mean, I'd hope not from anybody or from everybody, but probably, yeah. And that's something that I've definitely accepted and have gotten really good at not being so worried about anymore. Just because I Yeah, as an industry, I feel like now more than ever, there is a part of artists as a whole, of, I guess, like you could say, like a collective or a group of artists that feels now more separate from the industry than ever. And I guess it's just like the rise of the independent artist, and like the fact that you can actually really make it as an independent artist now. So it feels less scary. There was something that was, I think, really kind of scarring for me really early on, which was that I was right after Friday. I was, I wish I could say the name of the label, but I won't be able to. I was basically like at execution phase with a record contract with like a major label, and with all these like amazing promises of everything. And when you're at execution phases of a contract with a label, like you're basically done. Like you're just waiting for everybody to sign their ends of it. And it ended up falling through like at the very last second. And I think that really like cemented in my mind, like, oh, Jesus, like the industry is never going to care about this or like give me a chance to really figure it out, especially because at that point, like I had absolutely no idea what I was doing or what I wanted or what, nobody had even asked me like at that point what kind of music I wanted to make. So probably best that it never happened. Definitely best that it never happened. But yeah, I don't feel so like confined by it anymore. I think recently, especially seeing like artists that I really admire and have always really admired, like kind of come out and like really be nice and supportive, like someone like Charlie, who I love, and seeing them
God.
like really,
we love Charlie here. We love Charlie on this
channel. I know
channel.
You love Charlie.
Well, we do. Just felt like it's worth restating. We love Charlie here. We're big Charlie supporters. And hey, any independent producers out there, clearly Rebecca is curious about the hyper pop shit. Clearly she's curious about the bubblegum bass shit. Give her some bubblegum bass instrumentals, okay? Let's see what she can do. You know, just saying.
I love it. Yeah, let's do it. But yeah, so it's, I don't know. I mean, I know that whether it's like the industry or people or whatever, there's always going to be that. And I mean, that's fine. You know, I'll keep moving.
Yeah. We're certainly at a point where a decent amount of the artists that I talk about online, in my reviews on a regular basis, are just doing their own thing independently, and they're putting out their own records on the internet just on their own terms. And you know, there's certainly no pressure to sort of put yourself to an industry deal, I don't think, unless you find yourself in a position where everything that you're doing is so hard to manage that you need someone to come in and sort of like empower in a way that you wouldn't be able to on your own. But I mean, at this point, it's probably most valuable for you to have total creative control over everything and anything that you're doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So from there, I wanted to ask you about sort of other inspirations that you have been sort of like feeling in terms of like newer music, because you mentioned Charlie, you mentioned Grimes, and you know, you are exploring other sounds and other messages in your music. And you know, while your new singles are, you know, darker, do you feel like, you know, bringing up the industrial thing, that you're willing to go in more sort of experimental places? Like how you know, out there is some of the stuff that you're listening to? I think because you're a pop artist and people aren't familiar with a lot of your catalog, like people don't have a full range or understanding of, you know, your taste, or, you know, your appreciation for music. Like, what is something about your view of music or your taste when it comes to music fans or even producers that you're, you know, looking to work with, that you wish they understood when sort of like entering into a listen of your music, or, you know, an agreement to work with you?
Mm-hmm. I guess, I mean, I'm willing to go as far as I can. And something that I do, there is a part of me that likes, I think, knowing that I have like definitely a different pool of inspiration than a lot of people might think. And especially, you know, I know that for a lot of producers, when they're going into work with, I guess it's like any young pop girl, a lot of people do have the same references. And a lot of them are other pop people or pop girls or kind of things that are popular at the moment. And I think I do actively try to go against that grain because I want to make music that I like to perform. I want to make music that makes me feel inspired, and I try to do my best at that. And so, I mean, as far as like inspirations and all of that, that's what I love about like queer pop, hyper pop, industrial pop, like gay shit is amazing because they're so unafraid. It's amazing, and
it is. I agree. I fully agree.
And it's always been such a big catalyst for some of the things that through time get watered down and end up being something that many people listen to. I mean, I send my managers songs all the time, and half the time they're like, I don't know if I get this, but okay. And that to me, I would rather be there than feel like it is just impossible to me to try to be in constant like writing rooms of people who are like we're like as soon as I hear the word TikTok in a writing session, I am mentally checked out because it's just impossible. It's impossible. And like the stuff that pops off on TikTok is honestly good, and they're definitely not thinking about that. So I just think a lot of people miss the point. And I've become a big, just generally like fan of music myself, and obviously. And yeah, I mean, producers wise, somebody who I have been talking to a bit and who I just love so much, and maybe we'll actually end up having something come out together, is like Laura from 100 Gets. And like Dorian Electra has been someone I've been talking to. And so that world of people, like that music excites me so much more than majority of what I guess people would imagine would excite me. Yeah.
No, we love Dorian over here. Sometimes I feel like I love Dorian a little bit more than my fans do, but you know, I've had moments where I've retweeted things Dorian's doing, and people are like, "Stop fucking putting Dorian Electra in my feed." Now, granted, it's probably the 5th time I'd done that today, but still, I feel like any amount of Dorian Electra is a good amount.
It's really good, and it's people who are also just like so kind of unafraid of just putting shit out and doing whatever they want. And like that is just to me kind of not just the essence of like what is good music now. It is just that kind of like, I don't know, disregard for radio. It's nice to see that in a pop world. And yeah, I just really like resonate with that whole attitude, as you could probably imagine based on that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that disregard for radio, that ability for artists to control their own narrative on the internet, combined with just like queer culture, I think has resulted in a really incredible renaissance of subversion in a lot of modern pop music. Not all pop music, but quite a bit of pop music. And there have been artists for a long time. I mean, gay culture and pop music have intersected for decades upon decades upon decades. And there are plenty of artists out there that you could say in pop music have been queer icons for a long time, or in the messaging in their music, have been queer friendly. I mean, you know, certainly Lady Gaga or Madonna's an example too. I mean, lots of examples. But right now it seems like we're in a place where queer artists don't need sort of that representative to go out there and make that platinum record where they're shouting them out or celebrating them or whatever for them. You know, though there have been tons of artists who have been in the closet and maybe have not been that open about, you know, their status previously. But now it seems like everything's just a lot more open, and with that openness, I think has come this experimentation too, because now you're sort of, with a lot of this hyperpop stuff, seeing brighter, more glitchy, more experimental sounds that I think, you know, reflect the culture in a more accurate way, because you don't need to make a song that appeals to the normies. You know, you could put it out there and put it out there for the culture, do it for the culture, and just market it directly to the culture. You don't need to make sure, it's to the record labels pleasing. And, as you just said, like Dorian Electra, Charlie, Gex are certainly like leading the way on all of that.
Yeah. I think this is the time of the niche. Like the industry everybody I feel like knows this at this point, but the way that the industry has evolved is no longer are people at radio or labels the gatekeepers to listeners being able to get their music. And so all of these like beautifully strange kinds of music are just now so much more accessible. Like you have something like Spotify or any streaming service or whatever it is, and you can get whatever you want. Like you can see that it's out there and listen to it immediately without having to find it so hard. So
I wanted to just say something like, not to get you in trouble or anything, because this is not about getting you in trouble. And you could, after this or during this, you were invited to during this to disavow everything that I'm about to say. That's totally fine. And just like wipe, yourself, this is my opinion and this is not your opinion. But personally, I think it's unfair that the industry would sort of look down upon you for that song, okay, for that one fucking song. And the reason why, in my opinion, is that because there are tons of industry-backed and supported songs that are way fucking worse than Friday and have been made by artists who frankly still have careers, and after these songs, I think maybe shouldn't. Like, we should reconsider whether or not they're allowed to have careers. And again, like this is my opinion. This is not your opinion. But here are tons of songs that I think are worse than Friday. Okay, one, Lil Dicky Freaky Friday, another Friday song that's way fucking worse than Friday. Okay, I would, not that I'm ashamed to in general, but I would jam Friday out the fucking car with the biggest sound system all day before I'd even play Freaky Friday one fucking time. Okay, like even one fucking time. AJR 100 Bad Days. That's way fucking worse than Friday. That is a song that your career should be over at that point, but lo and behold, AJR is still here. Sam Hunt, Body Like a Back Road. It's a really weird fucking song. Yeah, it's essentially, comparing your lover's body to a back road, whatever the hell that means. I mean, I've never wanted to sleep with anybody who I thought, had the figure of like a dusty, rocky dirt road. But if that's your thing, all preference.
Engage with the niche, so.
Exactly. Niche is a niche. Logic, Supermarket, the whole album, the entire record. So the entire record, Logic, Supermarket, every song from it, okay? Trash. Worse, way worse than Friday, okay? Eminem, Venom. That song is on a soundtrack. That song has literally been heard by millions of people on a soundtrack, and yet Eminem still has a career, which, again, I think should not be the case after that song. Charlie Puth, Marvin Gaye, like Marvin Gaye and Get It On.
Another one.
Are you kidding me? Like, how is that toward the start of your career, and yet you still continue to have a career after that? Seems like it doesn't really make sense. Justin Bieber, Yummy. I don't know if there are any Yummy fans here, but Yummy is way fucking worse than Friday. I know you didn't write Friday, but like I feel like at that point in your life, you could have written a song that was 5 times better than Yummy, because the writing on that is just trash. Drake, I'm Upset. No one cares. No one cares that you're upset. And it's a terrible song. And finally, Justin Timberlake, Supplies. That's a terrible fucking song. I hate that song.
It was off the most recent album, huh?
That was off his most recent one. It was like a really like weird apocalyptic love song where he was like portraying him and a significant other, like, I don't know, going in a bunker and shit. It was really weird and terrible. But all of those songs worse than Friday. I see no reason why you should have trouble working with producers or being seen in like a positive light after one song. Especially you put it out so young. When these people came out with these songs when they were adults as well. So with that, I'm going to transition into a few viewer questions over here. We'll pick out some good ones for you. So off the bat, people want to know, and this will probably create a bunch of tension between both of us right now, depending on your answers. So be careful, okay? This is a threat. I'm openly threatening you, just so you know, okay? But what is People want to know your rating for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Okay, people want to know. Yeah.
I have a very, I feel like I honestly, my opinion of Kanye West, like, I haven't always like really been a massive fan of his. I think he makes some good shit. I think he makes some really also like really dumb stuff. And I think we can see why, like, and who he is as a person. It's fine. Honestly, I was young and I probably at the time, if I listened to it because I thought it made me cooler. That's probably my official review.
Honestly, that's a lot of people that listen to it and they don't know.
What do you think?
Oh, I
probably already know. I just forgot.
Oh, it's fine. I think it's about a light 6 out of 10. It's about a light to decent 6 or so. But hold on a second. I'm just gonna just pause for 1 second. This is for you. You're not going to hear this, but this is for you. Sorry, I just had to give you some explosions and an air horn and people going, "Oh!" because that you just dropped some fucking fire. Okay, you just dropped some fucking fire, and you know the chat was a little unhappy about it, but it was fire to me, and that's all that matters because this is my show and this is not anybody else's show.
All that matters to me as well. No, I'm kidding. I'm so sorry to upset anyone.
Oh, it's totally fine. Don't be worried.
Will be coming out.
Don't be worried. Do not worry 1 second about upsetting any of these people. It's my job to upset these people, and I'm here. I'm fine. I'm okay. I upset these people every day, so it's not a big deal if you upset them. Someone asks, a confused programmer, what is your favorite type of melon?
You. But in reality, I guess like a honeydew.
A honeydew.
Yeah, sure.
Got it. Honeydew.
Honeydew's good. So I guess maybe I'm lying, but I don't know.
Given the nature of the chat, someone of course is asking, are you or have you listened to, are you into it all Death Grips?
I probably listened to it like once or twice.
Okay.
I feel like, I am a pretty avid watcher of your stuff, so I feel like
Oh, that's totally fine.
I feel like I probably checked it out. Mm-hmm. And clearly, again, it's like if I had a really strong opinion of it, you would be hearing it right now. So I'm so sorry again to anybody who I'm offending.
Oh no, it's totally fine. All that matters is that you've heard it, and when you listened to it, from what you can recall, you had a more positive reception of it than Kanye West. Would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Let me get another question about here, because here's a question that I'm curious about as well, because there are a lot of fans of this artist in the chat, a lot of fans of this artist in my audience. I would say there are people in my audience who are even bigger fans of this artist than I am. But are you at all into or inspired by the works of Rae Jepsen? A lot of fans in the chat of her Emotion album and everything, and we tend to like over here the way that she's revitalized a lot of those classic 80s new wave and synth pop sounds in her stuff and sort of made it really modern and anything. Do you care for that?
Yeah, I think she's somebody who, a lot of people think that I am her, so we clearly come from
people think you're Rae Jepsen.
The amount of I was like at a club back when you were able to do those things a few months ago with a friend of mine, and Call Me Maybe came on, and they were like, "This is your song," and this is a friend of mine. So it happens. I think that she's great. Like, I am a huge fan of the way that she has transitioned, and again, like in her own right, like had kind of this like carelessness for wanting to be on the radio or wanting to, what I really like about her, even probably more, I do really like her music a lot. And I love that album Emotion so much. It's just that she never really felt like she was so worried about other people taking her seriously. She just all of a sudden took herself seriously, and then everybody kind of ensued. And she doesn't get as much credit, I think, like across the board as she should. But I know that she's somebody who like is so highly revered in the gay community, and I don't know if it's just her music or what she stands for that has done it, but I think she's wonderful.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, I think she has love and respect for all peoples. Personally, one of my favorite things about her crowd and her culture is the what seems to be like a very small but passionate community of people who really want her to have swords or large swords. I don't know what that's all about. I mean, there's even I think this community has also resulted in like there's a photo of her with like a very large sword. I think somebody might have like brought it and handed it to her at some kind of event or something. But I'm very pro, whatever this group is that's trying to like make sure that she has swords.
I guess she should.
So someone is asking and wondering if you at all, do you rank or do you rate or do you care for the works of Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails? Do you think the Fragile or Downward Spiral are classics at all?
Somebody just asked me about Trent Reznor the other day. I think because I started talking about, I think I was in a session and somebody was asking about like what industrial references I was referring to.
Sure.
God, I am a child, so I am so sorry to disappoint in. I mean, it's just not when I say industrial, it's not what I'm going for, I guess. But,
yeah, it is a bit of like kind of a vintage flavor of it. You know what I mean? Not as vintage as you could get, but it was of a certain time and an era.
I think it scares me a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, as it should. That's kind of its intention. Would you ever be interested in making music at some point that you felt like you were trying to scare your audience with in any way, shape, or form?
Yes. Absolutely. And it would be a different, I guess, way of. I think I am probably currently making things that will scare people.
Okay. But like, what are 3 things that you feel like you would put into a song that either scare you or you think would scare another person?
Oh my God. I don't know. Probably just coming from a conservative family, they're very accepting of me, but like just generally like any gay, anything, which is in it, probably like legitimate screams. I mean, in that song "Sweetheart" that you talk about, I talk about burying myself, and that was kind of like a point of contention for people. I don't think it actually ends up scaring people, but I'm probably not that scary. But I'd like to try.
And when you're just playing or writing on your own, do you have an instrument of preference that you either feel like best able to play or perform on, or you just feel like you create the most fluidly on, whether that be a guitar, piano, your own voice in your own head?
Probably like the upright piano that I have, which not like, to me, a keyboard and a piano are just like so, they are such a different experience for me. But through quarantine, and I was home with my mom for a while, and so I like forced myself to finally really feel like I can play the guitar solidly. So I enjoy it a lot. I mean, it's a guitar, it's a great instrument, but I'm definitely like still really working on my comfortability. But I love a good solid piano.
There are also a lot of fans of this artist in the chat, someone who I'm sure you're also familiar with at this point, as many people kind of came of age listening to his music. But there are people who want to know what your general thoughts are on Tyler, the creator, especially considering, I guess, through his messaging and everything, he has sort of aligned himself with the queer community more closely, in his more recent stuff.
Tyler was somebody that I was always so intimidated by, because I don't remember if he said anything specifically about me when I was young, and he was like, it was right when he first kind of like jumped on the scene. And I personally love his transition. I love where he has gone with his music and his work, and I think also in the sense of what he's created as a whole as an entity for Odd Future and himself. And I was at Flognaw this year, and he's introduced me to so many other artists just through his, I guess, co-signing of them that I love. And I think he's one of those people that scares me in a different way. He scares me in the sense of he's so young still. I mean, he's, I guess, older than me, but he's so young and has done so incredibly much. And I think that is something that artists like my age look at and go, I hope that's where I'm headed. I hope that I'm doing the right things to, land in his direction. But love him.
Mm-hmm. And, just from, I guess, a recommendation standpoint, because we're always down for a good recommendation over here, is there a favorite artist right now that you feel is particularly underrated or unknown that you feel like more people should be listening to, that you personally enjoy, that that you're getting a lot of enjoyment out of? And it could be a newer artist, older artist, doesn't matter.
One that I know that you talk about a lot that I really love, I just know that probably people who maybe are coming from my end wouldn't know. Like, I know that you've been talking a lot about them recently. It's like Dirty Projectors.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. I really love this artist called Sales right now. Honestly, I've been very impressed with the music that a friend of mine, his name's Christian Leave, has been making. I don't know if you're familiar with the stuff, but he's young, and I've known him since he was maybe like 14, and he has a song Milk Sop that I really would be interested to hear what you think.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you got my email. Send me the song after. I'd be interested in trying it. Yeah. But it's interesting you mentioned Dirty Projectors, because they as well have kind of existed in different capacities and waves up until this point, and like hit it really big in the indie scene in the mid and late 2000s. And then as sort of like the 2010s became like this era of trap music, and like websites such as Pitchfork had a lot less cultural sway, and they were kind of like a Pitchfork darling at the time. It's like they sort of fell into obscurity, and David Longstreth, I think, has done his best to kind of adjust with the sound of the times, and now I feel like he's built the band back up and sort of made it in a way where it sounds like classic Dirty Projectors, but then simultaneously it's also like old school Dirty Projectors. Well, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like it sounds old school, but it sounds new at the same time. Like he's embracing a lot of those newer, catchier, trendier R&B elements, and he's brought on new singers and everything. I think it's really kind of revamped the flavor of the group, and really kind of made them into something that they weren't totally prior. And I hope people kind of pick up on that and appreciate that, for what it is.
It's definitely nice to see an artist feel like they're kind of coming back home rather than just like shooting off into some very random direction that doesn't really fully make sense. So, yeah.
Before I take a few more audience questions over here, I do want to ask you really quickly, because you referenced it earlier, and I think it might be, just interesting to kind of get a better sense of this. But, in the conservative household that you're talking about kind of being raised in, and I think most of us can kind of relate to that sort of idea, at least being in a situation where our parents' ideas or ideals are a lot more conservative in comparison with our own personal beliefs, no matter where you end up in life. But was that sort of, and obviously you still have, a relationship with your parents, and they're aware of your career and everything. But, can you tell me a point in sort of your artistic process here where, you might have felt like that was kind of a barrier for you, or might have been holding you back in any kind of way, shape, or form? Like, pushing past that point, was it a difficult choice, decision, or sort of transition for you? Or was it just, something that you just kind of hopped over with ease in a way?
Finding my own, I guess, like kind of thoughts and voice on the world and all that.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, my family is kind of all over the place, and I'm from like a generally conservative area of California. I mean, it's very conservative, actually, called Orange County, and there was a moment through, I guess it was just like being a child of the internet, and then especially with what part of the emotional process I feel like that I went through with Friday was I really went through this huge phase of like nobody understands me kind of a thing, which at the time like probably very few people could have possibly, but that I spent a lot of time alone and on my own, and so there was just a lot of I had to look somewhere else, and I just started. It's part of the generation that I'm in. Like I am a part of Gen Z, which is so obviously kind of breaking all of the boundaries of every generation before them, and so unafraid of fluidity in every way. And I feel like has just this more general sense of empathy. Not to say that like millennials or anyone before aren't, but just as kind of a culture, I feel. So there was just a moment where I felt like it's hard when you come from a family that thinks one way and you think that is the right way, and they do a really good job of explaining you why it's the right way to be, and then all of a sudden you realize that they might have been wrong, and they might not know that they're wrong. And so it was seamless in the sense of I never dealt with the pull of, oh my God, I'm leaving this life behind. I was pretty young when I started thinking the way that I did and kind of seeing things for what they were. And yeah, I think the pull comes from now, like the certain members of my family who either want kind of nothing to do with like these new ideals and don't kind of realize that their opinionated selves raised the same kind of opinionated person in me, just with the opposite opinions, and trying to guide them along in the right path. Some are more forgiving and wanting to be a part of it than others, especially now that I'm so kind of active in like queer spaces and everything. There's a lot of long conversations, but that's the pull. I didn't feel that necessarily in myself, and I think that is because I kind of grew up on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, being in those types of spaces and being exposed to those types of ideas through the internet can put you in a space where you feel less afraid about feeling the way that you do or speaking about it because you know that there are other people who feel the same way. And, you know, as I guess stereotyped and as laughed at and as cringy as, you know, that type of phase of nobody understands me, you know, can be. I feel like the worst people on the planet don't have that. Like if you want to talk about somebody who's like, or know whether or not somebody's like a real shitbag, like just find someone who never had that moment in their life. And, you know, chances are like chances are they're like, you know, Eric Trump, you know, something like that, you know, like that guy, I guarantee, has never had a moment where he's like, no one understands me. Like, certainly there's been daddy's never loved me moments, you know, definitely, like, unquestionably. But, you know, there's never been a no one, like, the world just doesn't get me. You know, he's never had that moment, you know, that moment can kind of be an awakening in a sense.
Well, let's give him that moment.
Yeah. I want to reference back to something that you might have an opinion on that is in relation to an initial funny interaction that we had online. After you had done that post, I think I responded with something that was like, you fucking dropped this queen with like the crown or something, and I said you're like the queen of pop or something, and you know, which obviously, you know, don't disagree with that. You know, that's my opinion, and my opinion on this show is God's word. But a lot of people told me when I had said that I was simping. Okay, that I was simping. What is your general opinion on simping? Was I simping? And I've heard other people say simping is king shit. Like, is simping king shit? What is simping? Is simping a big deal? Is simping just something that insecure guys throw out there because they're really uncomfortable with just having normal interactions with other people who are different than them? Like, what is with that in your view?
It feels like a problem that is for men, created by men.
It's a made up fucking problem.
Because I've never heard a woman or anybody who is the, I guess, object or who's the one being simped upon, really have that strong of an opinion on it. It feels like it's kind of like, where did this come from? As long as it doesn't feel weird, which I guess it can sometimes.
Sure, sure.
It really is like, let somebody simp. I guess that's my.
But you do make an excellent point. You do make an excellent point there. Women do not police each other in that way, which is very odd. Not that they should, but it's weird that guys do it.
It's very, I mean, there's a lot of really weird shit that guys do that I just really let them deal with on their own. So I consider simping and the whole aggression over other people simping in that category.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are other people who you see calling each other out on that in your comments who are not me, and it is quite odd. I think there's people who are just afraid of other people being not like just friends with women. Like I don't quite get it. Like it doesn't even, like, a lot of the time when I see people saying like simp, it doesn't even seem like a sexual thing. It just seems like being nice, and it's like, no, you can't be nice to women because what will happen is I don't know. It's sort of like a South Park, like step 1, step 2, question mark, profit sort of process in their minds where it can't really be explained.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely like to live in a world where we normalize just being nice to women and being nice to people who the majority of the other time are frustrated with people not being nice to them. So that all sounds great to me.
Now that we've solved the problem of simping in this interview single-handedly, and we've normalized it and we've said it's okay to simp, is there anyone who you think that you would simp for personally, like online or like and any place? Is there anyone you would simp for?
Christine and the Queens.
Oh wow, yes.
Sarah, Sophie. Oh my God, big time.
Good picks.
Wow. Yeah, so many.
like true pop alphas, like music icon alphas. You picked some real fucking alpha types right there, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. Prove me wrong, Yeah. Who wouldn't?
Cool. All right, people in the chat are saying yes, Christine.
Yes, Christine does really bizarre. I mean, just this to myself, but Christine does some very bizarre things to my body that many people will never be able to do, and I've never met her before. So. Okay,
all right, putting that out there. I like it. Someone's also saying that they would simp for Rosalia. We all simp for Rosalia here. We would, yeah, obviously. That sort of just goes without saying. Kim Petras, simping for Kim Petras. Sure. Obviously, we all simp for Kim Petras over here. Let me see. Obviously, look, you guys don't need to say that you simp for me in the chat. I know that. You're already here. That doesn't need to be explained. That's why everybody's here. But, outside of that, I just want to thank you for doing this interview. It was great. It was a good conversation. You have been open and fun and just a great guest. I want to comment on just, your music and everything that you're doing. Sounds like you're going in a good place in comparison with, your cohort in the past, Patrice. I think the latest thing I saw him doing was trying to involve himself in some YouTube drama with Ethan from H3 and Keemstar on a video that had like 200 views on it. So I think you're in a much better place right now. Like comparatively, I think you have come out of this like the better person, essentially.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just stating fucking facts because that's
stating facts.
I am stating facts. I don't need to be thanked for stating facts. It should that should just be normal. That should just be normal behavior.
I hereby normalize it. So
one thing I am annoyed about in 2020 is that there are people who thank me for things that I feel like should just be like every fucking day. I don't care about fucking simping and, stating facts and not peeing on the toilet seat. These are all things that we should be doing, washing our hands and wearing a mask outside. Last thing I guess I'll ask you before we head out is, this changing musical landscape right now, and with you being an artist of the pop form, as of right now anyway, wherever you go in the future will be where you go. But I personally, as a critic and as somebody who's watching the charts and seeing who the new artists are, coming out, but it seems like there's like this looming cloud over the industry and sort of influencing the popularity of particular songs right now, and that's TikTok. And you mentioned that earlier, and sort of discussions about that, and your eyes glazing over or whatever. But is part of the thing about becoming a commercial artist or a content creator of any stripe means like going to where the audience is, where you want people to be hearing your stuff, or, putting it in a place where people are liable to stumble upon it. And I have people in my DMs. Just the other day, I had a young songwriter in my DMs telling me that, oh, hey, I wrote this song and it's kind of popping off on TikTok. And, I checked it out, and she had, some videos with the song, and people were kind of acting out stuff to it. And I could see why it was popular. I mean, I wasn't crazy about the song myself, but, is this something that in time, as it's gaining more popularity, that you feel like you're going to have to think about more as an artist if you want your stuff to get out there?
I don't know, because that's something that everybody in the business side of music seems to be talking about right now. On the industry side of the music kind of whole landscape, people seem to be like trying to figure out TikTok. And the only thing that I can say that I have learned through my entire experience through Friday and everything is that everybody asked me, how do you go viral? How did you do it with Friday? How will you do it again? There is literally no way to predict what will work and what doesn't, because it's all about what resonates with people. And my opinion on what goes viral on TikTok and how these songs are popping off is that it's because they are the songs that are absolutely not trying to. Maybe not all of them. Jason Derulo, I don't know, seems separate from that, but
and Drake also with the Tootsie Slide thing, like there, which I mean, I'm not crazy about that song, but there are definitely artists out there that are like, okay, I'm just gonna throw a few dance moves in my lyrics, and then maybe people do them in a TikTok video.
Sure. And when you're Drake or whoever, you can do whatever and people will probably do something to it.
Sure.
But I think as a new artist, it would probably be a bigger detriment to yourself to be so focused on how to kind of incorporate TikTok into your music, at least itself. Just because it feels like the songs that are kind of popping off on TikTok are really kind of these super interesting, like, off kilter songs that would never make it necessarily any other way, and that specialness of them is what people who are young and have good taste, or just some version of taste, who find these really weird little kind of intricacies in the song and then put it on there for 15 seconds and that's what pops. Like, just do what you're doing. I don't know, get weirder. I guess that's the key.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of effective advice in a sense, because, I mean, a few things that you were just kind of reflecting on, virality is not all it can be cracked up to be, so that's kind of the first part. And the second part is like, at this point, what does a TikTok song even sound like? As you were just saying, lots of people in the industry are focusing on this thing. They're interested in this thing. And I, as a critic, am aware of tons of different songs that have popped off on TikTok, but it's very hard to find a thread that goes through all of them in terms of like, this is the sound that does well on TikTok. And often as a writer who's trying to create an entire song, it can be sort of difficult to write a song from start to finish with like TikTok in mind, because a lot of the time when people are reacting to something on TikTok or incorporating it into a video, it's just a small section. You don't know what section of any given song people are going to be like, oh, this 10, 15 section or second section is exactly what I want in my video. How exactly do you write an entire song just based simply around that?
Yeah, I don't know. Just feels like not the answer. So.
Well, that's fine. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming through and spending your time with us. And thank you very much to chat for being incredibly well behaved and throwing out some good questions and just being really chill. We appreciate you. and we cannot wait to hear your hyperpop epic. You know, there have been so many great answers throughout this whole interview, and I think collectively, you know, after having gone through what we've gone through, we all simp for you as well. So, you know, thank you very much.
I simp back.
She simps us back, chat.
Each
Wonderful.
and every one.
Amazing. Fantastic. Rebecca Black, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have yourself a good day, and you know, we'll see you again at some point. We'll see you again.
Absolutely.
Bye.